Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, repost, no your honor, we don't need the mass tracking of our employees' cell phones outside work hours to apply to management. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Repost, no your honor, we don't need the mass tracking of our employees' cell phones outside work hours to apply to management. I've unfortunately taken down this story and my related comments a few weeks ago, my most popular so far, because there was a substantial witch hunt going on for a time about it at work after it made /r/all, and I had reasons to believe it was an employment risk. At the time, the two parts together had over 6K UPS and 6 glids. Thanks to it, everyone at work has heard about /r/Tales from Tech Support now. But it's no longer an issue. I have confirmation that it was largely overblown, and that I was never actually at risk of identification despite early information to the contrary. I hate censorship, and I feel bad for ever taking it offline. So I'm rectifying that tonight by reposting whole thing here, the hell with it. For the curious about past comments, I present the internet's inability to forget, though with atrocious formatting. Part 1 was archived entirely here while Part 2 is all here, comments included. The side discussion about plaintext passwords led to this. Without further ado, the whole thing I deleted because I briefly got scared of HR's plastic teeth. We're all humans with bills to pay, but in the end, all that is needed for HR to triumph is for employees to do nothing. In memoriam of fallen colleagues, causes of unemployment, love, justice system gone wild, 21st century witch hunting against unions. This story contains a healthy dose of legal drama, but I believe it's still relevant here. A while ago, my ISP laid off in one day 8 unionized employees, and about a dozen non-union staff and managers, including a director, and in the end were quite unhappy to have to do so. Legally, this happened over fraud. We're a big company, and of course many couples formed at work, and in many cases, began to live together. We're also all entitled to generous discounts on all our services, with several being simply free for all employees. You can get a package of cable, internet, phone, and mobile that would normally cost $300 per month for about $60 if you go for a set of high-end options, as we mostly all do. The problem was that when 2 employees lived together, one of them de facto lost this privilege, as a single privileged account covers everything you can possibly need at one address. The solution used by everyone for years to avoiding wasting their perk for living with whoever they loved was simple. One of them would put the home address of a relative as their own, just to avoid wasting the perk. Legally, this has now been determined to be fraud, but at the time, it seemed like an innocuous workaround, and it was fairly common knowledge among average employees that was how you dealt with it, and nobody cared, until the day one manager with an axe to grind found out 2 union reps in love together were doing exactly that. Suddenly legal, HR and the president of the company started pushing panic buttons frantically. So began the great witch hunt. Initially, according to sources close to THEENEMY the company, their initial plan was just to fire the 2 that had been found out and issue a stern company-wide warning against such practices. But orders rapidly came down from the office of the president that this fell well short of sufficient. The lovebirds were left alone for now. Legal papers were drawn up, 6 people with great suits plotting world domination with legal degrees picked up their best Italian leather suitcases, and went to court, requesting a closed audience to discuss potential fraud. They argued that the audience had to be kept under wraps, because for the time being, the potential fraudsters had access to information that could endanger national security. Our databases have lots of confidential information on millions of customers, and yes, everyone aside from the frontline grunts can read their emails and see their passwords. If they were aware of procedures against them, and that police action would be hindered if word got out before the potential fraud was fully uncovered. Hey, they said national security? Motion granted. The secrecy prevented the union from knowing about the proceedings or representing anyone at this stage. Law at least ensured that a public attorney would represent the parties which did not know they were accused, but without the possibility of contacting them to organize a defense. At audience, they explained the situation, the suspicion it was widespread amongst rank and file employees in a relationship with another. And that since the company had no records regarding who was sleeping with whom, there was only one logical thing do: order police to secretly collect GPS data on the cell phones of every union employee for 7 days to ensure they were not lying about their place of residence. Of course, only police would see the data, compare it to listed addresses claiming employee discounts, and report mismatches to the court for further action. Hey, why not? It's not like this is pre-9/11 or something. They did say national security, let's do it. Then the generic public attorney, GPA, finally said something useful. The dialogue is based on secondary sources and is not word for word. GPA, are unionized employees the only ones with these benefits? Evil corporate lawyers, ECL. Well, technically anyone working for the corporation has. GPA, defense moves that if such an action is authorized, national security could also be affected by any non-union employee with access to the company's database, that any warrant must be broadened to the entire company, and coupled with a gag order that forbids anyone with knowledge of these proceedings to share this information with any employee of the corporation, including upper management. ECL, Your Honor, we do not believe such a risk exists, and that the high hiring standards and regular screening of our non-unionized personnel, who unlike the union workers fall under our strict corporate policy instead of a very limiting work contract, make the risk negligible that they could defraud us. It's not worth the time of law enforcement to investigate such a dead end. GPA, amongst all people with employee discounts and access to systems that could access information that might in any way impact national security, what is the ratio of union to non-union personnel? ECL, objection, relevance. GPA, essential to evaluate the extent to which non-union personnel could theoretically impact national security. Judge, overruled, please answer. ECL, well, I don't have exact numbers on hand, but slightly more non-union personnel overall in the entire structure, but obviously there was more to it than this. Corporate could bring in witnesses whereas GPA couldn't given his inability to contact those he represented. We're told he managed to get a government official to testify to his belief that the threat posed by ISP's employees' ability to realistically damage national security through access to systems was generally low, but to no avail. Still, his main point had been heard. Judge, be it ordered that a mandate is given to city police to establish within 30 days the technical basis for a 7-day wiretap of every person with a listed address with employee discounts at the corporation, limited to the collection of GPS data of the wireless devices listed in the accounts in question. That everyone aware of these procedures is sworn to absolutely secrecy about the provisions of this order on pain of criminal sanctions, and police is to report within 60 days after collection of cases of potential fraud to this court, and that all collected data that does not point out to potential fraud must be immediately destroyed. The contents of this hearing will remain sealed for the time being. Soon after, a colleague of mine, part of our unionized security department, mostly in charge of ignoring thousands of piracy claims that very often involve references to the DMCA, even though we're in Canada, and also in charge of cooperating with all police, military, or judicial requests to the corporation in complete secrecy, got the very weird call. He told me about it once he was legally allowed to. Policeman, do you understand the contents and limitations of the mandate, and that you're personally sworn to secrecy for the duration by virtue of its content, and that failure to internal security? Yes, I understand. Have to track my own cell phone's position for a week and a few thousands others. Your paperwork is in order. Sue, if I turn off my cell phones for a week, do I go to jail? Policeman, this is no laughing matter. And I do not advise that. How much time do you need to set up a track of this magnitude? Internal security, oh, let's see, thousands of accounts, about 50% more SIMs, Policeman, the volume is going to be a problem, isn't it? Internal security, the only problem is that a judge signed off on this. ETA 24 to 48 hours. Policeman, could you then next week cross-reference it against employee accounts too? Internal security, could, sure. Will, no. That falls outside my job description and your mandate. I will provide you in bulk the relevant addresses and gathered GPS metadata within 24 to 48 hours after the Big Brother week is over. Given the sensitivity, I won't send it electronically, I will have a physical thumb drive for you to pick up. Policeman, this will cover your obligations, but it's less than helpful. Internal security, then that is less than my problem. Have a good day, policeman. And so soon after my cell phone was legally wiretapped, only for GPS data for a week. Thousands of others too. Including the presidents and the ECLs. What could possibly go wrong?